So that is why they assume that breath comes to an end when death takes place. So there must be something more than that. It can't be just, you see, breathing you are lost. So the whole spiritual life is built on the assumption that there is a self. I don't see any spirit here, so the whole thing is finished. So then you moved over to the material side of life, and I discovered that there is no matter here. So both materially and spiritually, I found myself in a situation where I could get no answers from any source. So I was drifting on my own, you see. One day, through some luck, the whole question disappeared, burnt itself out. Not that I found an answer. I did not find an answer. But the question is not there anymore. But you see, so how can you deny that there is no such thing as an enlightenment or not? You see, that is not my interest. Okay. You know, the search burnt itself out. The thirst for that burnt itself out. And the hunger burnt itself out without ever satisfying itself. So what I am left with is a burnt out case. But it is not just a burnt out case, you see, but there is this live embers are there burning here. You see, it's not in that sense, you see, a log of wood that is burnt out, but still you see the flame is there. You know, the flame is expressing itself in its own way, whether it has any value or not, whether it will have any impact on the society or people around me, is not its concern. You see, like the tree is there.
We can't say it would be relevant to others.
I don't, that is not my concern. I, at the same time, see that you have no way of relating this to the way you are functioning because there is no reference point there. That's all that I am saying. That's good. I come again.
With himself.
You see, actually there is no relationship at all. This relationship that we are talking about is the one that is created by culture for the purposes of the continuity of the society. So there is no such thing as your mind or my mind. There is a world mind, if I may put it that way. So that world mind is the totality of the experiences of all those people that have contributed to the continuity of the thinking of man. So we use that for purposes of communication, for purposes of functioning in this world sanely and intelligently. So there is no such thing as an individual at all. You are all the time trying to create an individual which is impossible because you have to use that, the world mind,
yes,
and you have no other instrument. See, the only instrument we have is that created by the society. The society has created us for the purposes of maintaining the continuity of the society. It does not want any change. The change is always within the framework of that, and if there is any change, it is a modified continuity of the same. You see. So what I am pointing out there in that book very harshly about J. Krishnamurti is that he talks of a transformation, a mutation, radical mutation, and so on and so forth. So my basic question is that we have to find out if there is anything there to be transformed. Or, for example, the self-realization we are talking about. So I have discovered for myself that there is no self to discover. See? So that does not mean that I stumbled into it, you see, all of a sudden out of nowhere. But the whole effort I have put into that, you see, to find out if there is any such thing as self has led me nowhere. So suddenly, you see, it occurred to me that, you see, there is no self to discover. There is no self to realize. That self is the one that the knowledge we have about the self, and it is that knowledge that has created this self. In that sense, you see the dog chasing its own tail, and you are trying to overtake your own shadow. But we never question the source of that shadow. What is it that casts the shadow? I don't know. We never question that, you see. We're all the time trying to overtake the shadow. We will never succeed in overtaking the shadow at all. Is it that mindset? We have accepted, you see, all all that is handed down to us. You see, the certainty that I have is not a logically a certain premise. You see, the certainty that I have that all that is false. You know, everything is false. It does not mean that I am far superior to all those teachers, sages, saints, and saviors of mankind, or any such thing. That may be true and valid to them. You see, when I relate the way I am functioning to those truths that have been handed down to me, I find that they are false and they are falsifying me. You understand? So I have to discover the truth for myself. I cannot discover the truth for myself unless I reject completely and totally everything, you see, that has been given to me. If I am determined, you see, to find out the answer for my own question, I have no other way. And yet the instrument I am using is the very same instrument. The
instrument such as
the thinking. You see, the wanting is thinking, you see. If you don't want a thing, either material or spiritual, there is no thinking at all. So wanting and thinking go together. I want to understand myself. So how can I go about in this demand for understand myself? The only way I can do is to use some knowledge, you know, and go to somebody and ask him, how can I look at myself? So it is not possible for me to separate myself and look at whatever is there. The only way I can do that is through the help of this knowledge.
which knowledge?
The knowledge that is passed on to me, the knowledge that is given to me either by the religious thinkers of the past or, you see, the scientific thinkers we have in our midst today. That's the only way I can look at myself. So, what makes it difficult for me is whatever I am looking is influenced by the knowledge I have.
That means to say, as long as this influence becomes inescapable, there is no question of knowing one's own self, one's own life.
So, you see, when this realization that is not the instrument, and there is no other instrument, is there anything to understand? There is nothing to understand. That is not the instrument, period, full stop. That instrument has limitations. That instrument is a very powerful, tremendous instrument that we have to understand everything. But that understanding has not helped me. The intellectual understanding is all that is there. When we realize and understand that has not helped me to understand whatever you want to understand, you superimpose on that something like intuition, intuitive understanding, and all that kind of thing. There is no such thing as intuitive understanding, but that intuitive understanding is something like the sensitized thought. It's the very same instrument which you have for some reason sensitized it, if I may use that word. I don't know, certainly my English is not so good. So, but actually it is not possible for us to understand anything through the help of that instrument. You see, we know everything we see before us is the creation of that. The word, you see, is the creation of your thought. So you cannot question that. The moment you question that, you are in trouble. You are yourself born out of that thought. Your body you experience, the feelings you experience is only through the help of thought. How can you question? You are that thought. You cannot separate yourself from that thought. So anything that you experience through the help of thought is a dead thing. It's not a living thing. Then it is dead because you see something living cannot be captured by this dead thing. Dead thing in the sense that it is the past. All past is, you see, there is no present moment. This is the moment. You and I are sitting here. We are trying to understand the problem, whatever is the problem. So the instrument which we are using the past. The language is past. I don't know if you understand. So you are looking at that instrument called the microphone. So is it possible for you to look at that except through this word microphone?
For example, this living moment is a precious reality, and I react to that precious reality as I am now in relation to the present moment.
You are not. The present moment doesn't exist because the instrument which you are using to look at that and experience that is the past. So, in that sense, there is no future at all. Any achievement you are interested in is in the future. So, the only way that the future can formulate is to be in the present. So this is the present moment, and unfortunately in this present moment what is in operation is the past. So in the past we had both, you see, the pain and pleasure, happiness and unhappiness, suffering, sorrow, and so the instrument which we are using to create, you see, the future is the past. So future cannot be anything different from the past.
And future is also contained in the present.
There is no present here. If it is possible for you to be in what you call the present moment, the now, here and now, then there is no future for you at all. So the future, past is not in operation at all. The only way the past can survive and maintain its continuity is through this constant demand for experiencing the same old thing over and over and over again. That is why it has become a bore. The life has become a bore because it's a repetitive process.
Then how do we avoid this?
The only way it can maintain its continuity is through this demand for constant experiencing of the same thing. If the knowledge you have of that is not there, but unfortunately it is there, what is it? So where is that knowledge? Is it somewhere in your brain, or where is it? It's all over you. You are not really interested in the knowledge coming here. So you ask the question, I go here, there and everywhere. The very purpose of your asking question is to know. You see, the question how demands some knowledge from somebody else so that, you see, that can continue. You want to know. You see, how is it possible for you to look at it when that movement of the knowledge you have about that is absent? You are asking that question yourself. That means you want to know. So if I tell that, you see, I will be misleading you because I have no way of knowing anything about that when this movement of knowledge is absent. So it is not you that is asking the questions, but the totality of that knowledge, because all the questions are born out of that knowledge, and the knowledge is interested in maintaining its continuity. So the only way it can maintain its continuity is to know more and more and more. It's not knowing anything new there. There is no such thing as new at all. There is no such thing as a new experience at all. So when what you know is not there, what is there is not new. You can't say anything about it. The only thing that can say what is there is only through the help of the past.
Then can one experience anything shorn of a thought?
There is no experience at all.
Then thought naturally visualizes a concept.
Thought and concept are the same.
Which means, how do we avoid this kind of...
You are asking the same, how means you want to know, and through this demand, it is maintaining its continuity. It's maintaining, you are not interested in any answer for any of your questions, because the end of the answer is the end of the knowledge you have of that. The answers that you already have has to come to an end. So there is nobody who is asking the questions there. The assumption that there is somebody who is formulating these questions is an illusion. I can say it is an illusion, but that illusion you have to maintain because the answer to that question puts an end to all that you know. So it is not really interested in any answer to the question. Any answer that you want is the one that strengthens, fortifies, and maintains the continuity of the knowledge. Any other dimension to this? What it creates another dimension. It invents a thoughtless state. Thoughtless state does not exist, but it is the thought that has invented the thoughtless state, and pursuing what it calls the thoughtless state, in that movement, this thought is assured of continuity. So how can thought experience a thoughtless state? So how can thought experience, which is time, experience the timeless? So it has invented the timeless and put it there, and pursuing what it calls the timeless, in this process, it is having a lot of insights, lot of experiences, which assures the thought, which is time, that one day it is going to be there. So, we live in hope and die in hope.
You mean to say it's a violent contradiction in terms the start of thought and thoughtless?
The thought, yes, it is an invent beyond, it has invented the beyond and pursuing the beyond. So the unknown, you see, we read in these Upanishads the unknowable,
the metaphysical,
the inexperienceable, inexplicable. So you see, by creating that sort of a situation, the known is assured of continuity. There is no such thing as unknown at all. But whatever you see it knows is part of the known, but it is still pursuing what it calls the unknown. So if you say the unknown is unknowable, inexperienceable, inexpressible, through those phrases, through those concepts, it is continuing.
I understand.
You see, it is still pursuing the unknown. It hopes that somehow the unknown can become part of the known. You see, when the unknown becomes part of the known, it is already the known. Where is the unknown?
It's a sort of a chimera, a fancy.
Then the level of consciousness and
You see,
beyond mind.
But you see, the consciousness, as far as I am concerned, is another word for life. For life.
Life.
What life is, we really don't know. What we are concerned is how to live. You see, it is how to live that has created the problems.
Yes.
It is how that, you see, the culture has given to us. This is how you should live. You know, there is no how. You see, the moment the how is dropped, the life has a momentum of its own. It may not have any direction. It may not have any way of moving. It is just a movement. So the truth is just a movement. So you capture that, and the moment you capture that, it is not truth anymore. So the moment you see an expression is given to that, it is not truth anymore. They were chanting here the Vedas or something like this today. They said, you see, the very expression must be thrown in the fire. The yajna they are talking about. So the very expression of that, you see, whatever he is saying, he is teaching, he has to be burned. So this is an endless process. What I try to emphasize to those who come to see me is that, first of all, you see, there is no hunger to find out. And so you are satisfied with the crumbs that these people throw at us. It's those people who are the ugly saints we have in the marketplace, selling all kinds of shoddy pieces of spiritual goods. We are satisfied. And they promise a full loaf of bread. One day, you see, even if they give one loaf of bread, we want to see another bread. You see, in America, in Western countries, not one wheat, but 5 cereals, 10 cereals, you see, all of them wheat, so many cereals, rice, wheat, maize, corn, so many, see, oats, all of them put together is here. So there is no entry, you see. So you will never be satisfied. Your hunger will never be satisfied that way. When you realize that there is no end to that, it is demanding more and more and more and more, never satisfied, it dawns on you that that is not the way. So the hunger, without satisfying itself, has to burn itself out. I use this phrase which is applicable to lepers. You see, it has to be a burnt out case. They apply only to the lepers. You see, when they are cured, they call it as a burnt out case. So in exactly the same way, the thirst you have, you see, has to burn itself out without quenching the thirst. You see, I was saying this afternoon to somebody. You see, 1 in a billion. 1 in a billion. You see, this kind of a thing happens to him. And that 1 in a billion does not need help anymore.
And you experienced that when you were 49 years?
Yes, it somehow happened. You see, whatever happened to me has happened not because of all that I did, but in spite of all that. It's a miracle of miracles. Not that I deserve it. You see, You know, it is not that you really deserve or somebody finds you the one and the only deserving candidate for this kind of a thing and gives it to you, but it just, you see, happens. In nature, these things are thrown out, you see. This is the end product of the nature. You see, your idea of a perfect man is altogether different. The culture has placed before us the ideal of a perfect man, which is a model of one of those sages, be it Buddha, Jesus, or Mahavira.
Would nature just does that, sir?
The nature is creating not a perfect man which the culture has placed before us as
from
an
its
ideal
own point of view.
Why it is doing it, we really don't know. We really don't know. You see, it is creating every individual into a unique human being, not a copy. See, culture has placed before us a perfect model, you see, not knowing very well what is there, and trying to put everything in that common mold. You see, if the world were to be filled with only roses, it would be a horrible place to be. So there are so many millions and millions of flowers, we don't even look at that white flower, we step on it and crush it, you see, with the cow, with that kind of a thing. What an extraordinary, beautiful flower that is there. You see, in the lawns, the grass flowers there are as beautiful as the rose. Nobody bothers about it. We have hundreds of poets who write sonnets and odes on a rose, daffodil and all kinds of flowers. Nature, when once the nature perfects something, it throws away, it has no use for it anymore. You know? So it creates something new all the time. Whereas the culture, you see, in its own way, interested in the continuity of the same thing, so has placed before some model image, and then everybody should fit himself or herself into that mold, otherwise you are lost. That is what I mean when I say that it is the society or culture that has created me for its own reasons. Its reason is to maintain the status quo. No change. It doesn't want any change. It talks of revolution, it talks of reform, only to continue. It's like, you see, the metaphor I give, a crab. You see, crab, you see, it sits there until something pushes it and then it moves and then it moves. That's all. Otherwise, after one move, you see, it settles down there. In exactly the same way, the society does not want any change. And since we are the creation of that society which does not want change, we also don't want change.
A little while ago you mentioned that this kind of mutation could take place 1 in a billion. And
not because of what he does or what he does not do, not because he is the only deserving man amongst a billion people we have on this planet.
But independent of
the sound, you see, is straight thing, a causal thing.
Which means to say, no amount of individual earning for that kind of
effort is necessary.
Is it? That's the point.
So I want to emphasize one point very clearly here. You see, when I say that no will is necessary, no effort is necessary, is in relationship with what you want to be, what you ought to be. But will is essential for you to become, you see, professor in the college. To learn a language, will is essential, effort is necessary, imagination is necessary. Aspiration is necessary if you want that job.
And duties and responsibilities too.
You have to use your will, but in its process there is pain.
Then what should be done?
No, don't tell me what should be done. But you see, wherever there is effort, there is pain. You see, you cannot avoid one without the other.
Yes.
One without the other. So the demand for permanence is something that doesn't exist there. We want permanence. The society wants permanence. You want permanence. And in a way, you know that there is no permanence there. So what I emphasize is that we are trying to solve problems in the field of the psychological framework. So, but actually the problems are neurological. The body is involved, you know. Take for example anger. You see, anger, what is anger? You see, it is antisocial, but it is a wave like a high tide in the ocean. So the sea can handle that in exactly the same way. The anger is absorbed by this body because it destroys the sensitivity of the functioning of his body. His body is interested in survival. Why it should survive is not the question, that is the built-in thing there. It's a self-perpetuating thing. So it is not interested in risking it, so the anger has to be absorbed by the system. But when you try to do something, you see, so either suppress it, or you see, control it, or practice non-anger, or be choicelessly aware of anger and don't do anything, then you see you are giving continuity to something which the body is trying to absorb and or throw it out of the system. So thinking has created a problem. So it is not the desire that is really the problem. All these religious people condemn desire. But desire is life itself. You see, as long as there is life, there is desire. So they go together. So the moment you want to do something with the desire, so suppress it or fulfill it, for whatever reason, we have created a problem there. So it is the thinking that has turned that desire into a problem. We are trying to solve these desires within the framework of ethical codes or religious codes, or your law is within the framework of law. But I tell people, you see, why do you want still these religious people to tell you what you should do or what you should not do? We have moved far away from that religious thinking of man. Here we have created, you see, the civil code and the criminal code to tell us how to function, you see, within the framework of law. It is very essential for us, you see, for the smooth running of the society. So if you start driving your car on the right side, you will be in trouble. With the rest of the world, it is on the right, and here we are on the keep to the left, and there keep to the right. So we have to follow certain codes of conduct, and the society punishes you. You understand? So this conscience has no meaning. Here you see, you can circumvent all kinds of things. So it is turned into a problem. Unless you are free from that desire, the desire of all desires, which the culture has placed before us as the ultimate goal, the be-all and end-all of our existence, the desire for liberation, moksha, freedom, God knows what, self-realization, is free. That means unless and until you are free from that desire, you are not going to be free from any one of these desires, the other petty little desires. So by suppressing these desires, you are not going to be free from them. This is really the crux of the problem. So it is the society that has placed the desire for freedom, the desire for liberation, the desire for moksha, the desire for God knows what it is. We have umpteen number of goals placed before us. That is the desire that you have to be free from, and then all these desires fall into their natural rhythm. They are so simple. So if you suppress these desires, and you suppress these desires only because the society is going to punish you, or because you see you want that desire of all desires.
Opposed to this is a question of a retreat to primordial primitivism.
Without primitivity. Without primitivity, you are back again in the primordial, primeval state of consciousness without primitivity. Because you have, you see, evolved. That's why we find our children more intelligent than ourselves. Their children will be much more intelligent than, you see, our children. So the evolution. So the child of today is far superior to that of Buddha, Jesus, they is gone. Forget it. You know, so it is our problem. We are not able to handle them. We are backward people already. There is a generation gap already. In the United States, there is a generation gap between 14-year-old child and a 16-year-old child.
But then, sir, to sustain the society, for the sake of living, not for anything else. Suppose a man gives vent to his feelings in its natural state.
I mean, he is not antisocial. He is not in conflict with the society anymore.
Beg your pardon?
If you see, a man in his natural state is not antisocial, he is not in conflict with the society because it can't be any different.
But the society as such
Because
imposes
this is the
certain
demand
conditions.
for a change inside of you has come to an end.
Oh.
The demand to change the society for your own reasons. You want the society to be different so that you can be comfortable in that society. That is why you want the change.
So then, sir, in that approach, violence also will not be on that scale, perhaps.
There is no violence at all anymore. It's because you see, anything you do with the thought to create a peaceful state of mind is like using, you see, force and violence to create peace in this world. You see, between two wars we have peace. But you are all the time preparing for war. See, war is not the means to create peace in the world. And so thought is not the instrument to create a peaceful state of mind. That's all that I'm saying. So meditations, yoga, all these techniques are violent here. The experience of ecstasy, bliss, beatitude, this living organism is not interested in any one of those things. That is why I say very often, this is my doom song, the day the man experienced this self-consciousness, which made him feel superior to the animals, he sowed the seed of total destruction of every form of life on this planet. So anything that comes out of the divided state of consciousness is progressively pushing the whole thing in the direction of total annihilation. So what is the way out? Is there anything that you and I can do to reverse it? Is the only thing that can happen to you, you are thrown off the whole mainstream. So what kind of an impact you will have on the society is not the problem. You see, on the other hand, you become a threat to that society. So they liquidate you. As long as I sit here and talk, it's all right. If I get up on a platform and instigate people to act in a particular way, they will eliminate me. Sure. So it's not that I'm frightened or any such. I'm not interested in saving the world because the world is anyway, mankind is doomed anyway.
But we found in the mystic enlightenment a lot of folks, who said it will never decide.
It's because, not because of love, not because of kindness, not because of
compassion
and all that kind of stuff which has proved and resulted in violence, but because of terror. You see, if you try to destroy your neighbor, you are going to be destroyed. The terror will keep us together. You know that now all these superpowers, they were talking of destroying each other, one another, all those nations. There was a time when the dull ass, I always called him, he talked of massive retaliation. He kept all those bombers with nuclear weapons flying over Russia. Now they dare not talk those terms. They know what it means. But yet, you see, it is lunacy to talk of a limited nuclear. What are they talking? What are they talking? How can you even talk of, you see, a nuclear war? It is there who should be there, put in the mental hospital. We don't put them because we all belong there. I'm sorry,
No.
It is. So it's lunacy, absolute lunacy to talk of that.
And what you
So
said,
how can you create peace through war? Everybody is preparing for war. The war is here inside of me. So if you are at peace with yourself, you don't expect your neighbor to be peaceful. So if my neighbors are peaceful, then I will be peaceful. That's not going to happen at all.
as we hope for a better society in this country. As everyone of
This society is doing in India.
Well, during the course of the conversation, you mentioned the phrase subliminal awareness.
Subliminal learning.
Learning, yes.
You see, the child, no effort is necessary. Haven't you watched the children learning everything without any effort?
That should be the way.
That is the way
in the adult life
to learn things, and all that is essential for the survival of the living organism is there. So there is no effort, no will. You see, if you want to survive in this human jungle created by our culture, you need to go to the university, learn all that, and become a part of it.
There is no need.
There is a need of who will give us jobs in this competitive world. There is a
I
need.
understand.
We have to.
A sort of a dichotomy arises because of this kind of.
We have organized the thing so well that you see, even if you want, you see, to somehow survive by eating some fruit of a tree, you don't have a chance because that tree either belongs to an individual or to the this stage. So what chance do you have to survive by eating the fruit there? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, sir. No. But the collective effort of this continuity of knowledge and the inventions and the finding of things in the field of medicine. We knew in our formative years malaria and so many other epidemics, and life was more horrible. In fact,
Sir, you see that the more we do, you see, to save ourselves, the more complex it is become. Those people who are working in those fields tell us that, you see, we are not going to win the battle in the long run. You know, yesterday Dr. Modi was here, the ICE surgeon was around. I pointed out to him the nature's idea of the survival of fittest is one thing, and our idea of the survival of fittest is altogether different thing. So it has become possible for the medical technology to keep alive those whom the nature has discarded. You say they have to go. But the medical technology, for its own reason, wants to keep this going. I am not saying anything against medical. It would be foolish to condemn the tremendous advances the medical technology has made. You see, I am just pointing out, maybe we are not doing the right thing. To keep alive something that you see is finished, that is wearing out. So it is for the individual to decide. No individual wants to go.
The term enlightenment, but I sincerely feel there is enlightenment in this kind of not reaching the natural state, in being in it.
But all right, assuming for a moment that there is an enlightenment, the individual who is there can never tell himself that he is an enlightened. A free man, if there is one, he will never know that he is a free man. And so there is no question of that free man going around trying to be others. It is just trees there. What you do with the tree is your problem. You cut it and use it as a fuel and cook your own food. Or sit under the shade of the tree on a hot sunny day and feel fresh and cool. Or if you are a painter, paint that. Poet, describe it. If you are a musician, compose a song. But the tree is not interested in what you do with it.
Could you put
Such a man,
the human life on the same footing as the plant life and the animal life?
what is the difference, sir? What is the difference? Actually, no. We think that we are superior to the animals, but the animals don't kill their own kind. The animals don't destroy, you see, for an idea, for a belief. I agree that, you see, belief is an extension of the survival mechanism of the humans. You know, by belonging to a particular religious group, the chances of our survival are better than being alone. You understand? So, everything is an extension of the same survival mechanism. So, hydrogen bomb is an extension of the same. See, our way of life, and our way of thinking, and our supremacy, you see, amongst the nations, and our right, you see, to use the resources that the world has for our own advantage, can only be protected by, you see, the hydrogen bomb or the neutron bomb, God knows what, or a cobalt bomb. So how can you condemn that, you say? How can you condemn that? You have a policeman here. I need a policeman to protect my life, my property. So that is an extension of the same. Where do you draw the line? That's really the problem, you see. You can't really free the world from the atomic weapons. There is a way of neutralizing. You know, they think that I am mad when I point out that Gaddafi should have an atom bomb. And you see, the Iraqis should have, Iran, the madcap should have it. Then you see, the chances of those nations blackmailing these nations will come to an end. And there will be a neutralization of all this. Then you see, you can't say that he is the only madman. You are the madman. See, because you are threatening all the time the limited nuclear warfare. He is as mad as the other fellow. He doesn't seem to be any more responsible than that fellow who is ready to blow up the whole thing. So what is one to do in such a situation? It is the extension of the same. You can't condemn anything. You can't condemn the army, the force, the policeman. Do you or do you not want a policeman? If you don't use this policeman, if somebody is there to hit you, you are a fool, damn fool. Sure. I am not calling here.
No. I can understand the implications.
Yes.
Metaphorical significance.
Yes.
Conveyed through.
So I tell some people, you see, that if you have a gun, you can make the most powerful man, the President of the United States, to sing, to dance, to any tune you want. If he doesn't do it, he must be a damn fool. Because his life is in danger. So he will do it.
At the bottom it is fear. Everything is traceable to fear.
Where is that fear?
Because man somehow...
The whole of your being, the fear has to burn itself out. You see, you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. That's what I am saying, you see. The whole thing is born out of fear.
Yes.
So you are fear.
Yes.
So what is the way to be free from fear?
Yes, precisely.
Where is that? That means the fear goes when you are dead.
Then as long as...
You have to die.
As long as the individual is alive.
The individual is alive because of other reasons. You see, the fear continues. The fear of something coming to an end. See, there is no end for this. There is no death for the body. In the sense in which you use the word. You see, there is no death at all. The death is the continuity of that knowledge. So it is that it is resisting, so it has created the life beyond, the lives to come, and so on and so forth. But here, you see, it is assured because it is assured in the sense the form changes. See, the body is made up of constituent, fortuitous concourse of atoms, that's all. So it dissolves itself into some other form of a chemical change is taking place. So it is, this expression of life is changing into another expression of life. So nothing is coming to an end there. So the body, not the shape, the form that you are talking about, you see, the life as such has no beginning, it has no end. That is the immortality. Whatever has a beginning has an end. So whatever is created has to be destroyed. So every time the